Server and app both use the common API spec because, hey, the contract has to be common. So this folder is basically a Linux symlink. 2, back to the API. Okay, so the code complete is working out of the box. I actually didn't have to download anything manually. All right, so we have this notification service class in my client code. There's a lot going on in this class. Oh, wow. So it looks like it did the right thing. Hello everyone, my name is Gaurav and you are watching 100GB. Today we are gonna do something different. And by the way, if you haven't noticed, I'm in a very different environment today. So we have a new IDE in town called ZED. It's ZED. It's built by the same team that built Atom and Electron Shell a few years back. I've mentioned it in my previous video. So today I'm going to download the IDE and try to do some stuff with a fun side project that I have. All right, let's go to cd.dev. Okay, an IDE, not IDE, a code editor where you can actually code at the speed of thought. Wow, I really like this. The tagline, code at the speed of thought. Okay, let's take a look at what they have to offer. Okay, so they say that this is engineered for performance and the latency numbers that are shown over here are impressive. But the thing is that the latency is anyway less than 100 milliseconds, which is like not noticeable as such. So they say open input. Okay, so they have provided some test details of how you can actually test it. And interestingly, this entire IDE is based on Rust. And I assume that even the UI is written in Rust. And I didn't know that you can actually write UIs in Rust. This is really nice. Okay, startup time. Oh, okay. So this startup time is really good. Okay, so how did they measure it? Measure the time it takes to restore 4 buffers and activate input.rs stop when highlighting complete. Okay, I don't know what to make out of it, but what I would have loved to see is that there is a project which has these many lines of code, and this is the time it takes to load that code, because starting the IDE means that not the IDE, the editor, maybe it needs to do the indexing and whatnot. So that is where the speed actually matters. Anyway, intelligence on the tab. This is really nice. Language aware, syntax tree. It also speaks the language servers. This is good. I mean, it's really hard to imagine a modern day editor or IDE without this LSP. So this LSP is really nice. I was reading about it a few days back. LSP is obviously language server protocol. What it means is that there is a standard protocol for IDEs to provide these functions for any language, like auto-completion, code navigation, diagnostics, refactorings. So various individuals, they write their own LSPs for a given language, and that LSP can be used in any IDE that actually supports LSP or that speaks LSP. I mean, for any modern IDE, it just has to be there. Themes, Vim mode, integrated terminal. Wow, I just love Vim. It's really nice. It's supported out of the box. A virtual office for software teams. Well, yes. This is helpful. I mean, if you don't have to leave the IDE and everything is there, it's slightly like better. Beauty from within, built like a video game. Oh wow! They've written their own GPUI framework, which probably means that they're not like using an existing UI framework and have built everything from scratch, like maybe directly using the graphics APIs and painting on the canvas or whatever counterpart we have in Rust. Okay, designed for the multi-core era, fuzzy tested for stability, and that's all. Anyway, let's quickly download it. All right, seems like we are up and running, and I have signed in via my GitHub as well for some reason, I don't know. It wasn't mandatory though. So if I open my project, all right, so let's take a look at the project structure so that you guys understand what's going on. So we have this parent directory, which in this case is Gamora for some reason. Then we have the server directory, which contains the server code. We have the app directory, which contains the client code, which is the Flutter app in this case. And then we have the API directory. So API directory is basically the API spec, the open API spec. Server and app both use the common API spec because, hey, the contract has to be common. And the fun part is that these three directories are actually three different Git repositories. And the way like the way app and server refer to the API is quite funny. So the app has a generated API folder. So this folder is basically a Linux symlink to back to the API. So yeah, it basically points to the build folder inside the API. Now that's how our flow is. We generally update the API spec, then we run some command to have some sort of a build. It's not a build actually, it's like fragmented APIs, and it combines them into one big YAML file. And then whenever we build the app, because of this symlink, the app's build think that, okay, hey, the API spec is actually part of the app itself, but it is not. So that's how it's working. Now the problem statement here is that quite a lot of times my friend who works on the server, he updates the API, and for some reason the app's build, it breaks. Now it could break because of many reasons. Let's say that there is some character in the API spec which is fine for the server build, but for the app's build, it's either not readable, or the library which is being used in the app to actually parse the spec is not compatible. Is incompatible with what my friend has added into the API spec. Anyway, so we've seen this problem quite a few times, and today what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a Git hook so that, like, whenever there is a change in this API repository, and whenever we do or someone does git push, there is some sort of hook which runs on the client machine, as in if I'm pushing something, it should run on my machine itself. And it basically just fires a client build locally. And if the client build is successful, it'll allow the git push only in that case. Okay, let's open the API project. Nice. It looks quite interesting. Actually, let's open the remaining, the app project as well. Oh, interesting. So it looks like the moment I open a project and the moment I open a file, it actually tries to fetch the SDK in the background. Anyway, it has started showing me errors as well. I'm not sure what's going on. Okay, so the code complete is working out of the box. I actually didn't have to download anything manually. It just works, which is good. Okay. So time for a pause. Let's quickly check like how to even write a Git hook. Let's go to Howard Bard and let's search on Google as well. How to write a Git hook. Git hooks. Client side hooks. That is exactly what we're looking for. Okay, for a while I just paused and I thought that why not use the AI which is built into the IDE itself. Okay, so it looks like we need the Open AI API key. Okay, let's quickly put that in. Okay, so let's have an interesting prompt there. I want to So the requirements I'm giving is it should use Docker and it should fork from this machine, which is Flutter Android, which is like the correct version which our app is using. Then use these following couple of commands and allow the commit only when they succeed. Okay. What else I need to do? Hitting enter is not doing anything. Okay. Something is messed up. Okay. So very funny. It looks like I was using GPT-4 Turbo and apparently I didn't have credits for it. And I just switched to 3.5 and it looks like the assistant is at least replying now. Oh God, do I need to type everything again? All right, moment of truth. All right, so it looks like I have to create a pre-commit file inside .git/hooks inside the LW API repository, but it also looks like I cannot access the hidden folders from here, and I have no idea how to add a hidden folder here. Looks like I'm trapped. Anyway, let's do it separately then. Okay, it looks like it has actually done something, but I don't see Docker into the picture. Okay, now it looks like maybe it's doing the right thing. I'm being so lame right now. Okay, so it directly starts a Docker container without the Docker file. It says pre-commit hook failed. Otherwise, it exits successfully. Let's see what happens. Oh wow! So it looks like something is definitely working. Definitely tried to spin up Docker, then it failed. Docker daemon should be running, right? Yeah, that's how I could see the version. Okay, folks. Yeah, so the only thing I had to do is I had to run the Docker desktop, which I already had installed, and it looks like since I launched it, this thing seems to be working. I just fired another commit, and it is downloading the Flutter base image. Let's see how it goes. Anyway, well, okay, looks like till now we haven't actually explored the IDE, and we are still struggling with like the basics. And I think for this entire task itself, maybe we don't need the IDE itself. Okay, something happened. It got crashed. Uncaught target signal 6 code dumped. Aborted. So I tried really hard, but actually it looks like that problem is not worth solving for, because the Flutter Docker image that I'm using, I think there are only 2 or 3 available out there. It's using the AMD 64 architecture, which actually doesn't, it's not compatible with M1 Max, and I actually need an ARM 64 one. Looks like it's not available, which in turn means that I'll have to create my own Docker image for this Flutter, which is, maybe I can do that with AI. Okay, for some other day. Let's switch problems. Let's switch gears and jump to other problem, because hey, we are engineers. We are never short of problems. All right, so we have this notification service class in my client code. There's a lot going on in this class. Primarily, it has an enum which has a notification permission state. I should probably rename this enum. It actually exposes a stream. Where is the stream? Yeah, it exposes the stream to various parts of the app which can actually listen to it. And whenever the state of the permission changes, the UI can take multiple actions. It can show prompts or dialogues or whatever. There's a reason I created it as a service, because hey, there are a lot of parts in the app that actually listen to it, or that actually need to show different kinds of permission UI. Okay, so the thing that is missing from here is it is reactive, yes, but it is actually not listening to the permission changes that happen dynamically. So a permission change only happens when the app actually goes to the background and then it comes to the foreground again. What I'm going to do is I probably need to listen for this foreground and background event, and whenever the app comes to the foreground again, I need to read the latest state of the permission and then like probably fire a new event on the stream. Yeah, so there is this method which says on something changed. So it's just that I need a callback when the app comes to the foreground, and I just need to call this method and everything should work out of the box. Okay, so let's try AI. Let's try, okay, transformation prompt. I'm not actually transforming it. So let's add it over here. Add a listener. That listener should be registered in the constructor. Let's see. Okay, choose an error. Failed to connect to OpenAI API. The model GPT-4 does not exist, or you do not have access to it. Learn more here. Oh man, this guy again. I just... Alright, it looks like I had to pay quite a few US dollars more. I was able to enable GPT-4. Okay, let's try the prompt again. Add a listener for something changed. Make sure the listener is registered from constructor. Oh wow, so it looks like it's not very well aware of the code that we already have. So for some reason it actually generated the constructor again. I'm not sure why it did that, because if they say that it is actually aware of this entire code, it shouldn't have generated the constructor again, and then it should have ideally like changed the existing implementation of the constructor. Okay, maybe it has to do something with how I initiated the prompt. So it looks like if I initiate the prompt without selecting a text, it only goes in the edition mode, and it actually cannot change existing piece of code. So if I try the same prompt, selecting the entire file, maybe it does the right job. Okay, let's do that. Let's try that quickly. I've selected the entire code. Now let's see if it actually does the job well. Okay, is something happening? I can see it is doing something. You can see this this blank, like big cursor going at a super fast speed. So far it looks like it hasn't changed anything. Okay, so towards the end of the constructor, it actually added a new observer. Added an observer on the widget binding, lifecycle event handler, detached, resumed, and whenever it's resumed, it actually calls the on. Something changed. Oh, wow. So it looks like it did the right thing. Okay, this is good. This is nice. Oh, hold on. So it actually added a new class that says handler. And for some reason, okay, I see what it's trying to do. So it basically created an internal class which accepts various methods, which are basically callbacks. If I set a resume callback, it gets called whenever the resumed lifecycle state is received. Okay, it went. It actually went above and beyond, because if I were to implement it, I wouldn't have written a new class. Maybe I would have simply like created a lambda here and just added an if condition, like if the state is the resume state, and I would have just called on something change directly. So in a sense, this code is actually reusable, because if in the future I need to listen for pause inactive, I don't need that if condition. I can reuse this existing object that I have. Whoa. Okay, this is good. All right, folks, I just tried this code on my phone, and it actually seems to be working well. It is actually working the way it should have been. Now, okay, so one thing to note here is that while yes, it wrote the code fine, but for some reason it didn't add the import statements for at least this class that it's using here. And if I don't know what's the shortcut to add the import statement. All right, so it's control dot, and it looks like I can add it from here itself. Nice. So the other thing that I notice is I don't see any option to build the code from here, build or run, which probably means that I have to do it separately via terminal or some other IDE. Wow. Okay, maybe it is the way they intended it to be, because yeah, even on the website they actually refer to ZED as an editor. It's a code editor, so they're really not calling it an IDE. Maybe that's the reason they don't have the run, build, debug buttons. Maybe they'll add it in a future iteration. This is anyway open source. I believe someone will actually build that. Anyway, let's actually do a quick walkthrough of the UI that ZED has to offer. Let's actually start from the title bar. Okay, so in ZED we have about, check for update, settings. We have open. Let's see. Okay, just 3 bits in the settings. This is probably the overridden settings, and only 3 properties are overridden. We have key bindings. Again, no overridden key bindings. It did ask for the key bindings when I started it for the first time, and I selected VS Code. And I think I don't know where, how to bring that selection back up again. Okay, default settings. All right, so these are all the settings that that the Z has to offer. Okay, I don't think if we actually need to go into the details. Anyway, default key bindings. Okay, so here we have all the key bindings which come as default with the editor, and I believe that these are actually the bindings which I selected on the first screen. Again, I don't know how to change them. Okay, so definitely I can edit them from here itself, but I don't know how to change the entire set to maybe to some other IDE, let's say IntelliJ, because I remember the option was there in the first selection box. Local settings. Okay. I am a little confused as in what is the difference between the local settings and the settings that we have over here. It says something. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, it actually refers to the documentation for the configuration, which is fine. We can check that later. Okay, hide Z, standard things, file, new open save, standard stuff. Edit, again, looks like all the standard stuff. Selection, nothing fancy over here. View, nothing fancy as well. Oh, okay, so we have project panel, which is the panel on the left. Command palette, which is probably the thing on the right. Oh, no, yeah. So the command palette is basically the command palette from VS Code. Layout, okay, so we can split the windows. What is the dock? Oh, okay. So that, yeah, basically all the panels on the right are referred to as a dock. Go to file symbol, type definition, all references, line column, nothing fancy here as well. Okay, nothing fancy on the window, of course. All right, so yeah, it looks like it's very minimalistic, no options in the title bar. On the window itself, I have on the top left, I have the name of the project, which is basically the directory. This is name of the Git branch, which is nice. So what happens if I open a file from the other repository? Okay, so it looks like it's still not changing. So it's probably referring to just one of these directories because these two are different Git projects, but it's only showing one of them here. Maybe that's fine. On the left, we of course have the project panel, center, of course, the files. On the right, I have my account, which I signed in with, settings, theme, feedback, and sign out standard. On the bottom right, okay, I have the language. So I think they auto detect language based on the extension of the file that is opened up right now. Then we have an option to enable the GitHub pilot. Feedback, of course. Oh, we have feedback over here. So yeah, I think the team really wants you to send the feedback. They have feedback scattered across the entire IDE. So if you're using it, please consider giving a good feedback. Okay, we have the terminal. Then we have this is probably like the assistant tab. Now, one interesting thing about this tab is for some reason, this entire is an editable text field. So this assistant replied to me and I can go ahead and edit it. I'm not sure if this is done on purpose, but this is quite funny. So I can do Control A, delete. Everything is gone. Wow. Maybe it is somewhat natural as well. Okay. Then we have the chat. This is interesting. So I remember when I was taking a look at the website, they had mentioned that this IDE really shines for distributed teams where you have multiple persons working on the same project. You can actually use chat feature, which is built inside the IDE itself. And they also have a feature to share the screen. Well, of course, no internet software today can be built without having this screen share feature. Okay, so messaging is there. Then we have notifications, probably this like the notifications coming from the chats itself. On the bottom left, we have the project view, which is basically we need to select what is shown on the left dock. Right now we have the project view. And then we have the contacts and channels. I believe channels are very similar to the Discord channels where you can create group of people to discuss common things. Then we have contacts, which probably denotes the team. And I don't have any team as of now. And then we have the project diagnostics. And this is good. I think it is showing the lint analysis of the entire project at one place. Wow. Oh, it'll be really nice if I can actually fix all of this using AI. AI is the buzzword. All right. Extensions. How about let's search for Dart. Okay, and it looks like we don't have a Dart extension, but we do we do have lots of themes. Okay. Oh, all right. So it looks like we just have limited support for extensions, maybe a couple, what, 20 or 15. I don't know what it takes to actually build more extensions for the IDE, or if it is possible to support the VS Code extensions, if at all. But at the moment, I don't see a lot of extensions, which maybe is fine as well, because the moment I opened the IDE, I actually didn't have to install anything related to Dart or like primary Dart, because that is what my project is using. And everything was like working out of the box. I could see the syntax highlighting and everything. Maybe we don't need any such extension, but there are like other there could be other extensions for integration with other systems which may be needed. Anyway, since it is new, I think it will happen in the future. Now, coming back to the website. All right, features, and they have tons of them. Let's quickly like try to go through them and see the interesting ones. Breadcrumbs, what are those? I've heard the term before. Right below the tab bar that shows the path to the current file, along with a summary of the containing syntax notes. While I am at line number 88, we have the small breadcrumb which is actually showing the directory of the file I'm in, then the name of the class, then the function as well. Okay, this is helpful for like larger or longer classes, longer functions, which anyway is not recommended. Okay, we have the CLI. Okay, so this is probably the command line interface for Z, like we have for VS Code. Code actions, collaboration, command palette, diagnostics, the doc. I think we have seen most of this in our walkthrough. Editing, file finder, language servers, file finder. Okay, so it's the fuzzy search. You do command P and you right away enter the name of the file and you can get to it. Very similar to how we have it in VS Code. File finder, language servers, multi-buffers. This should be the multi-screen. Yeah. Okay. Navigation, outline view, project browser, project-wide search, rename, refactoring, splitting panes, integrated terminal, themes, Vim. Okay, that's fine. Let's go to the getting started and see what else they have. Okay, some standard bits, configuring set. So these are all the global settings that we actually saw, which we can configure. Yeah, I think in practice they look very similar to what VS Code has to offer. So maybe, yeah, let's get over it. All right, so one interesting bit that I have over here is that it actually supports external code formatters, because like Prettier is a very famous formatter for JavaScript, which is available as an extension in the VS Code, but they actually have standalone CLI as well. And using this option, you can actually use Prettier with Z, which is actually good. I mean, yeah, this is really helpful, not just for JavaScript. I assume that the same thing will be supported for all the other languages as well. Yeah, similarly, we have a formatter named Black for Python, which I'm hearing for the first time. Then, of course, for other languages, then we have something called tasks. So Z supports a way to spawn commands using its integrated terminal to output the results. Currently, 2 kinds of tasks are supported, but more will be added in the future. All tasks are sorted in LRU order, and their names can be used with this. Okay, so this looks like what I was talking about earlier, that Z doesn't have any option to build, run, or test at the moment, like from within the IDE. Maybe these tasks can actually, maybe they represent that. I can create a task to like build my project or run it, and these tasks will just do that. Okay, one-shot tasks, support arbitrary bash-like command execution, type a command inside the model, and use command enter to spawn it. I think, yeah, this is basically that. And I think it makes sense to have it. Without it, it is really hard to go to the terminal every time you need to build the project again. Okay, this is good. If we go down using Z, I think we have looked into all of these. And adding new languages. Okay, so mostly you need the LSP, so just get a new LSP. Then for okay, I didn't know that we have to do something additional for the syntax highlighting. Okay, anyway, this seems to be a little complex. Highlighted using the identifier property. In the above example, weight underline italic would be highlighted. Oh, okay. So it is basically, if you're adding a new language, you can specify what kind of properties need to be highlighted, which in this case, maybe you specify weight, underline, italic, and all these will be highlighted, which is good. Collaboration, we have already, okay. Developing Z. Okay, so here they have some Git commands to pull the repository and then build it. Let's go to contributing to Z, which is kind of fascinating because this is an open source editor. Let's go to contributing.md and they have some standard stuff here. Well, they've mentioned proposing the change as well. I've seen this in quite a few other open source projects as well. So whenever you actually have to make a contribution, it's better to create an issue there and then discuss with the authors on what you're trying to do, and if they agree, if that is the right thing to do, and only then proceed ahead with the implementation. And I mean, you should not create like commits in the readme.md. I mean, just don't do that. Pair programming. Oh wow, we plan to set aside time each week to pair program with contributors on promising pull requests in Z. Wow, this will be an experiment. I mean, if the team is really spending this much time to pair program, it is really great. Bird's eye view on Z, GPUI, as they've mentioned before. They've written something from the scratch, which is why their IDE is, their editor is so fast. Then they have a few other crates as well. Now, I got to know this only a few days back when I was reading about Rust. Crate is kind of a, I like the name. It's kind of a module. You can think of it like a Java module, maybe. Basically counterpart of Java module in Rust. All right, lots of good stuff here, and I'm pretty sure that all of these are very hard for someone to actually onboard on and understand the code behind. And I think this video has already got very long. I think I should probably now take a break here. All right, folks, this was something new. I just wanted to go through the IDE and maybe implement this small feature, which I was able to do like in a fraction of seconds, although it took some time to get there, which is still good. I mean, given that it's just a new IDE and I just installed it. Well, kudos to the team. This is really a step in the right direction. I'm not sure how it will compete with VS Code though, but I mean, it's still fun to see an open source IDE editor, not IDE. Anyway, thanks for watching, folks. I'll see you in the next one.